The Bobby O Show.
Welcome to The Bobby O Show. My name is Bob Potsner, also known as The Bobby O. We're here for our third show of this section, and I've got a great show lined up for today. It's involving college basketball. I'm honored to have the head basketball coach, Jay Young, of the Fairfield Stags, and I also have attorney Richard Kent, longtime friend, who is an expert in the field of NIL, name, image, and likeness, and we should have a very interesting discussion about both of those topics as we get ready for the college basketball season. Coach Young, it's a pleasure meeting you, sir.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate it, Bobby.
Thank you. My pleasure. I don't see Richard Kent, but I'm sure he'll join us momentarily. Oh, there he is now. Hi, Richard. How are you, sir?
Hey, Bob.
Coach, I'd like you to give me a little bit of background about your coaching history as to where you've been coaching and how'd you get to the position at Fairfield University.
Yeah, I think I had a unique start to coaching. I wasn't a typical college basketball player. I actually played lacrosse in college. And when I was at Marist, a senior in Marist, the assistant basketball coach at the time was a guy named Jim Todd, who was a very successful coach, went on to coach in the NBA for many years. And he and I became close. My dad was a high school basketball coach in Central Mass, and he knew Jimmy. And basically, I'm hanging out with my buddies after graduation, trying to figure out life. And Jimmy took a job at Salem State College, a Division III job just north of Boston, and called me up and asked me if I wanted to do it. I think it was like $1,500 at the time. And, I was going to substitute teach during the day and help him out. I thought it would be fun. And then, 37 years later, I think it is now, I'm at Fairfield University as the head coach. So been a bunch of different places, every division, every level. Had great experiences and certainly enjoyed them all.
I grew up in Shelton, Connecticut, and so that's about 25-minute ride, 30-minute ride from Fairfield University, and I've always had great respect for that school. And as a young kid, I was a big follower of Fairfield basketball. There's a great history of Fairfield, including NCAA tournament appearances against, I went to Duke, so the hated Carolina Tar Heels, and actually Fairfield's ahead by a couple of points with 10 minutes to go. There's also the history of when Fairfield played in the NIT many years ago, three students walked 65 miles to MSG, Madison Square Garden, and dribbled a basketball to get to the game. So Fairfield's got a great history. And Richard, I'm sure you've had some memories also of basketball at Fairfield University.
Yeah, loved seeing Joey DeSantis play and love listening to him as he is one of the voices of Fairfield University basketball now.
I'll tell you a funny story about that game against North Carolina. My first few weeks on the job, everybody was coming up to me and saying that I was a sophomore when we played North Carolina in the NCAA tournament, and everybody had a different version of the score of that game. And I made a joke by the end of the month, Fairfield will have won that game. And sure enough, at the end of the month, the security guard came up to me and said, "Oh, I was a junior when we beat North Carolina in the NCAA tournament."
That's why they call us fanatics, the fans. We love our team. Tell me, Coach, 2023-24, you've got, I was noticing your squad, you've got 5 or 6 seniors or graduate students, and you have 5 or 6 freshmen or freshman red shirts. Interesting combination of players. Tell us about the combination of putting a team together with that diversity and age.
Well, I think that's a common mid-major basketball team in this era with the transfer portal that, once the season ended last year, we had some guys put their name in the portal for different reasons. And then we kind of jumped in it ourselves looking to build our roster and plug in some older guys who we had just lost. So I think the traditional rosters where you see a balance in freshman to senior classes, normally those aren't going to be as typical as they usually are. And you're going to see more rosters like mine at the mid-major level just because of this new era of the transfer portal.
Yeah, the transfer portal, and Richard may have some comments, and Richard, jump in anytime you want, but the transfer portal has its pluses and its minuses. I mean, I guess 15 or 20 years ago, if you were a head coach, you would tell a kid, hey, you're doing it wrong. And you might not yell at the kid, but encourage him strongly. Okay. But nowadays, I bet if you're a coach, you got to say, wait a minute, if I push this kid too hard, maybe he can't take it and he may transfer just because he gave him a hard day of practice. Any comments about that? Different coaching methodologies because of the transfer portal?
Well, one point I want to make, and I think Jay probably agrees, is the portal has got to close at some point in time for graduate students, because that was a disaster this summer for many schools when kids entered the portal in late July and August. What do you think about that, Jay?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I know there's been a lot of conversation about it, especially with the grad schools, because they're basically free agents all the way up until school starts, which isn't fair to anybody. And I also know that there's been a lot of talk about, the portal being only a month, which I think is a fair amount of time. We lost a very good player on the last day possible in the transfer portal. And, you just don't go in at that point and replace someone. So they're still trying to work out the kinks with them. But I couldn't agree more with the grad transfers. Really unfair to some coaches out there. When guys leave their program in August, late July, and their options are limited as to replacing those guys.
Yeah, and one thing, coach, is that you may get a young player. You have, as I said, several freshmen on your team, and you might say, well, if I build this kid up, and maybe in 2 or 3 years, he might be my starting point guard or my starting center. And then all of a sudden you find if the kid gets, quote, too good or gets unhappy, whatever, he may last minute leave your program. So it's a very difficult thing. I think coaching, we lost some very good coaches who retired, Roy Williams, Coach K, the Villanova coach, Jay Wright. And I bet you that having that kind of pressure of having to be recruiting your kid literally every day is a problem. But let's get more optimistic. Let's talk about your team coming up for this year. Tell me a little bit about the squad. I see you went to Costa Rica. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had a good week trip down to Costa Rica, where we played a team from Canada. They played the same team 3 consecutive nights. And I thought the timing of the trip, Bobby, was perfect for us with so many new guys. And we got a chance to kind of kick the tires. And I thought everybody down there kind of had a moment for us, which was good. We had different guys contribute every night. Caleb Fields, probably our best returning guard, didn't play over an injury, so we sat him out. But I thought it was a good showing for us. Certainly came away knowing we have a lot to work on, but really enjoyed being down there with this group, like the chemistry, like the way we shared the basketball. And like I said, I thought everybody kind of had a good moment down there and something for us to build on now that we're back and have started workouts already. When's the first day of official basketball practice when it's legitimate? For us, it's next Monday, the 25th. It used to be like October 15th or somewhere around there. Yeah, those days are gone. Now you're counting back so many days and so many days off from when your first official contest is. You have a beautiful new facility that opened up last year. Tell me about how that has impacted, if at all, the program. Well, we were nomads here my first 4 years. My first year here, we played a combination of games at the old Alumni Hall and Webster Bank Arena. I'm not even sure what they call Webster Bank Arena right now. You guys might know. I think they've changed the name of it. And then right after my first year, COVID hit. So we played all of our games, back-to-back games, home games in Alumni Hall in front of cardboard cutouts. Then the construction began for what is the Leo J. Mahoney Center now. So we were back to Webster Bank Arena full time, and then this past year we were able to open up Leo D. Mahoney Arena, which is, in my opinion, one of, if not the nicest mid-major facility in the country. Richard, you had a question you wanted to ask about the investment by Fairfield University into that arena versus other potential uses of resources. Do you have a question about that?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't want to make it specific about Fairfield, but going forward, Jay, do you think universities would be less likely to spend a lot of money on buildings and more likely to maybe make it a combo pack? We want to set aside X for NIL, but we will build a great building like yours, but maybe without and your building has all the bells and whistles, maybe without all the bells and whistles.
I don't think there's any question that everybody's kind of rethinking how funds are allocated in with NIL. Facilities are always important, Richard, but now to have facilities and not have NIL or is just not the answer either. So I think it's a combination of the two. They're very important. We're fortunate to have a great one that's been a real asset to us in recruiting. But certainly in this climate, NIL kind of permeates every discussion I have with recruits. It used to be, show us the locker room, show us the where you're playing games, and now it's kind of show us how much money I can make why I'm there. So I think that they're certainly still important, Richard. But you're right. I think everybody's re-examining how funds with alumni and that type of stuff are going to be allocated.
Richard, it's a good time for you to discuss briefly what is NIL, so that people who don't know about that, we know, but they may not know in the audience. What's NIL, Richard?
NIL is name, image, and likeness. In May of 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a case called Alston, decided that, and this is Justice Kavanaugh writing this opinion, that college athletes, student athletes, could benefit from their name, image, and likeness by way of additional educational benefits, which became payments. School could not be involved, and it could not be pay for play. There had to be a quid pro quo. I think that's been mitigated maybe over the last couple of years. But still right now in 48 of the 50 states, the schools can't be involved, and it's booster money or company money that goes through an NIL collective directly to the student athletes.
Well, Richard knows, and there was an over-under before I mentioned Yale and Duke, which is my schools, Yale undergraduate, Duke Law. But Yale doesn't really probably do much NIL. Duke does a lot NIL. And I must tell you, even though as a Duke fan, NIL helps us, okay? There's no question if your school going to be helped by NIL, Duke would be one of them. I don't like one and done. I don't like that a kid's going to come in and say, who am I to say? But I don't like the fact that a kid's going to say, you know what? Can I make more money here at Duke or more money here at Carolina, as opposed to saying, well, gee whiz, they got a great poli-sci program at Duke, or the campus is great, or whatever. And maybe because I'm not a 6'6" point guard or something, I'm not Grant Hill, so I can't make a lot of money on it. But as a basketball fan, I just see with the realignment of conferences, et cetera, that the joy we all had, Richard and I, and you're younger than we are, I'm sure, but the joy we had in growing up with college basketball and college sports. I don't like professional basketball. I think we're becoming professionals, and I don't know where it's going to end up. But somehow Stanford being the ACC, great university. But what about the students? When are you going to study? Now, some may laugh, well, do kids study who are getting scholarships? I'm assuming they are. When are you going to study if you're flying from Stanford to Carolina? So the whole thing is difficult. From a coach's perspective, what comments might you have?
Yeah, I don't think that if you polled all the coaches that if we could go back to the old way, we would. Maybe some of the coaches who were cheating before like this, because now that they really don't have to do that anymore, it's kind of, I guess, legalized paying guys. But, I think it just adds another layer of what is already a very difficult job. We have great jobs, but now when you add the fact that, so much of your time is spent raising money and talking NIL, I think, the majority of coaches, if we could kind of dial back the clock and just go back to no NIL, I think we would do it. And at the same token, I think we were all in favor for the rationale behind NIL, that we did feel that players should get a piece of what was going on. But I don't think anybody kind of saw what was coming and the collective piece of this that's emerged out of this. And, it wasn't supposed to be pay for play, but really, you can make a strong argument that that's what it's become.
Well, I would. Let's
look at the most extreme, because you talk about going back to the old days. That's not happening. But the real extreme is in football with Deion Sanders and in college basketball with Rick Pitino. That is something in a million years nobody ever would have thought would happen. Do you think there's going to be more of that, Jay? Or do you think that that's just those are two outliers?
No, I think it's going to be more of it. I really do. I watched the 60 Minutes special a little bit last night on Deion Sanders, and his son's NIL deal is, close to $1 million, and certainly the deep pockets that St. John's has now. I just think there's going to be more of those, and the teams that can fund significant NIL packages and collectives are certainly going to have an advantage, unless there's some sort of control over it. But that doesn't seem to be headed anywhere close to that soon. You would know more about that, Richard, but everything I've read that kind of nobody wants to touch this thing right now.
Well, the problem really is the NCAA for so many years made every decision wrong they could possibly make, if they made a decision. And if the NCAA had been smarter in the past, there's no question a kid who's playing basketball 30, 40 hours a week, whatever it takes, the workout and all that kind of thing, should get something. And to get a $15 a month or $35 a month meal money thing is ridiculous. Okay. Not when Coach K is getting $10 million a year, by way of example. He earned every penny of it, probably made Duke $1 billion a year for that. But the point is, the kid should get something, but you don't have to go from one end to the other end. And the NCAA, right, of course, made no important, even right now, I don't know the details, but Duke was going to do a trip to Chicago to do some kind of activity, and it got stopped at NCAA 5 hours before they left for Chicago to have an NIL trip where some of the Scribinis, some of the guys who were, get 3 minutes a game, were going to make some money. NCAA is at fault. And unless someone's, there's often a discussion about having a commissioner of college basketball. To me, that would help a great deal. But I want to forward back to your team for this coming year, because I want to get more into that. I know you have your really good point guard. You mentioned Caleb Fields, who was, I guess he was a transfer from Bowling Green, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Caleb transferred to us last year. Yep.
But you have a center or a big forward whose name is, Alexis Yetna from France, right, who has come into you. Tell me about how he will help your team.
Well, we got to get him healthy. That's the first thing. Bob, he sat out last year with an injury at Seton Hall and had surgery on his knee. So he is rehabbing with us right now. But when he has been on the floor, he has had kind of an injury-riddled career. But when he has been on the floor, he's been a dominant player. So he's a great kid. His rehab is going really well. We expect him to be joining us sometime in November, whether that's the beginning, end. I couldn't tell you right now. We'll know as we get closer. But we think we have a player, when healthy, he's one of the most productive players in the country and has been both at South Florida and at Seton Hall.
Aside from him and Caleb Fields, who else do you have who the fans, when they go to Fairfield to see a game, should look to see about?
I think a guy like Jalen Leach, who played for us last year, his freshman and sophomore year, he had both season-ending injuries, and he got back healthy for his first year last year. And I think this year he's in the best shape he's ever been in his life. He was our most productive player down in Costa Rica, played well, can really score, has an easy game to it. So I'm hoping he has a good end to his career, because he's battled some injuries, but he's been really good in the preseason. We took a junior college player named Jasper Floyd. Jasper's like having a fullback at the point guard position. And he's a son of a coach, played really well for us down in Costa Rica, was our leading rebounder out of the point guard spot. So, and then a transfer from Providence named Bryson Goodine, who came in, last year, and unfortunately he got hurt after 4 games. So he missed the remainder of the year. So knock on wood, that backcourt is relatively healthy right now. And, I'm expecting really improved guard play this year.
What about Matt Curtis, Jay? What do you expect from him? He's a kid who played high school basketball in Connecticut. He was, as a sophomore and junior, very highly touted, a tremendous shooter. He played in my All-Star game, actually. What do you expect from him?
Yeah, I love Matt. Matt's, the one thing he knows what to do when the ball's in his hands, and that's shoot it. And I like that. He's hungry to score. We checked him in down in Costa Rica, and he didn't get a ton of minutes. But as soon as he got in, the thing went up, and he's a really talented shooter, like you said, Richard. Got to figure it out a little bit defensively, but I think we got a really good player in our hands. And like all freshmen, he's going to go through some growing pains, but love him as a player, as a kid, great family. His dad played at the University of Hartford, so good pedigree, and Matt's going to be a good player here at Fairfield.
Coach, is there anybody who played really well who kind of surprised you at how well he did in the Costa Rica trip?
I thought Mike Rogan was a kid that we redshirted last year. We knew Mike was really talented. Knowing what I know now about how we shot the ball, Mike probably wouldn't have redshirted because we just shot it so poorly last year. But he had, a couple big games for us down in Costa Rica, got a good IQ. And then I was impressed with the freshman that we got late, Peyton Smith. Peyton's a big kid, another son of a coach, 6'10" kid, 250 pounds, that was headed to prep school. We saw him playing an EPSEC event, convinced him to come to Fairfield. He only practiced with us for about 10 full practices before we went to Costa Rica. And I was really impressed with his IQ and his ability to pass the ball. So, and then Barima Sek is another guy who transferred from the University of New Mexico, might be the best kind of runner from end to end that I've ever coached. Big kid, 6'10", skinny. He's only about 195 pounds, but really active around the basket. So I like the pieces that we got. We've got to kind of figure it all out, and that'll be a process for us. But like I said, it was a really productive trip for us down in Costa Rica, and got a chance to bond, do some good stuff, and hopefully that'll carry over to the season.
I see your first game for the season is a tough game in Boston College. I'm actually a season ticket holder for Boston College because Duke plays one game a year up there, so I want to get great seats, and then I give my tickets away. But it's a beautiful arena. I don't know if you've been to the BC Arena, but it's a winnable game amongst the three of us, the crowd watching, because they don't get a very big crowd. I mean, I can't remember a Fairfield Stag crowd as quiet as you hear at the BC Arena. So if you stack the crowd with some of your kids from Fairfield coming up, you might do well. But that's a tough first game, ACC team.
At our level, we're always playing early games like that against high major teams as part of some bye games that we're required to play. So, we've kind of played them all since I've been here, but we'll go up to BC. We'll give it a shot. Really, we played them 2 years ago. Really well coached team. But you're right. Growing up outside of Boston, Boston's a very much of a pro sports team, and hopefully we can get some Fairfield Stag fans to get in the building that night.
Jay, I went to your building and I saw the Michigan women come into town. Do you have any chance of getting a Power 5, Power 6 team to come to your building?
None. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. They just, those teams aren't leaving campus unless, for it's a TV option for most part, or a, like opponent. But for the most part, anybody in the Power 5 or 6 isn't leaving campus to league play.
Richard will laugh at this comment because he knows I've made it several times to him. I always thought it'd be a great idea for whatever team someone plays in the NCAA tournament in the prior year, the following year, whoever wins that game gets the home game. So, for example, if Loyola Maryland beat Virginia that year, they would get the home game against Virginia, so that you give a chance to have a mid-majors team to have a home game. But Richard doesn't like that idea, and so far no one else does but me.
Well, it's not a question of not liking it. It's a question of it can't happen. It's not practical.
Well, it could happen if the CBS $1 billion contract, for example, I don't know what the number is exactly, put in a clause you'd get these games. It could be a lot of fun. But unfortunately, fun doesn't always call it. I will say, Coach, that I'm pleased and proud that you are, and we haven't met before today, but I will see you at some games, I'm sure. But I will tell you that playing in-state schools, to me, is important. I know you played Sacred Heart last year, I guess it was, and you have a home and home with Sacred Heart. You played Yale last year. Right. You're playing Yale now at Payne Whitney. I think it's great to have in-state state rivals. When I was a kid, the Yale UConn game was huge. Back when Toby Kimball, and maybe you may not, well, he played for the Celtics. Sure. But I think it's great to have in-state rivals, and to Coach Jones loves the ideas. And I think it'd be great to have maybe a tournament. Did they do that one year, Richard, where you had 3 or 4 Connecticut schools play a tournament?
More than 1 year, but the attendance was not great. I went to it at Central Connecticut one year, and there was literally 100 people there. So it kind of dissolved. I mean, you're not going to see, unfortunately, you're not going to see UConn play Yale, even at Gamble or in Hartford. The last time they played, Yale beat them by a point at Gamble, and I think that pretty much ended the series.
It's funny with big schools playing smaller ones. A lot of the big schools will have an away game for a senior in his hometown. And when Christian Laettner, who was from Buffalo, played at Duke his senior year, they played a game at Canisius. Now, I don't know whether it was it must have been the big Buffalo arena, I'm sure, not just Canisius, but those are cool things. And so, Richard, when you say that it'd be hard, and the coach says it'd be hard to get those kinds of games, I remember UNC came to Yale one year back in the 70s. I think Phil Ford looked around, saw 200 people, and said, Phil Ford, being a great coach, would know, guard at Carolina, the Four Corners guy, looked around and said, "Where's everybody?" Coach, do you have any last thoughts? We have like 2 or 3 minutes left in the show. It's been a lot of fun. You're really engaging. I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your time. Give me some thoughts about where you see Fairfield basketball being this year and what your goals are. You tell you guys when you start the season.
Well, our goal every year, Bob, is to play in the NCAA tournament and hopefully be one of those teams where we can get there and have a little magic happen. I mean, 2 years ago, you saw a team from our league in St. Peter's who actually eliminated us in the first round, make that magical run, and was such a great story and so much fun to watch. And we were all rooting for them, especially coming from the MAC. We've got a great league with great coaches. It's one of the most competitive leagues, top to bottom, that I've ever played in. And these kids, I would say, it's not Duke and it's not Michigan, but boy, it's a great atmosphere if you come to a game in our new arena. Bring your family. It's like an NBA arena. The kids are playing so hard. The games are competitive. There's really good players on the floor. So I think it's just a great product that we put out there every night. And we sometimes mid-major basketball gets lost in the shuffle here with all the talk about the big schools. But man, there are some great players at our level who don't get enough credit or enough exposure. So I hope people who are local here will come out this year and certainly watch us play and watch some of the great players in our league.
And one thing about watching a game at Fairfield, for example, or Sacred Heart at Yale, is that the price is very reasonable. You can.
Yeah, we're a lot cheaper than going into New York City or one of the other places. That's for sure.
Richard, do you have any final comments about NIL or anything else you want to say? We have 1 minute left.
I think people would be dumbfounded by the building that Jay plays in. I'm going to say it again. When I walked in there for that Michigan women's game, I spent like 20 minutes walking around saying, "Where the heck am I?" I mean, I was used to, old Alumni Hall or going to Yale games at Payne Whitney. I mean, this is, as Jay said, and he's not just saying it, this may be the nicest mid-major arena in the entire country on the campus of Fairfield University. They don't even have to take a bus to an arena in some major city. It's right on their campus. People have to come out and see this.
I'm going to have to come down to Fairfield and maybe Coach, you'll give me a little tour of the
I'd
new
love
facility.
to. Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll come down. Coach Jay Young, it's really been a pleasure. I had not met you before. I knew you're a Rutgers guy because Richard is a Rutgers guy, so I knew there had to be some connection there. But in terms of you coach for 3 years at Rutgers.
Right.
Coach, thank you so very much. And Richard, it's always a pleasure having you. And in this holiday season, Lashana Tova Tukudeva, maybe you all be inscribed for a good year in the book of life. This is Bobby O. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.